change one more thing real quick. Okay. So, I'm going to talk about some context real quick. I did a few things off screen because it would be 3 episodes of Chalice Dungeons, and like we literally did not fight one. There's not one unique boss in any of those Chalice Dungeons, or anything remotely like interesting, really. Um, the chalices that I'm referring to are okay. So let's just talk about where we need to go. This right here is the Great Thumaru Ihriel Chalice. A chalice that breaks the labyrinth seal. Great chalices unlock deeper reaches of the labyrinth. Prometheu Ithriel was the title of both the Promethean monarch and its capital. This reveals that while the early Prometheans were mere humble guardians of the slumbering Great Ones, their descendants felt entitled to name themselves a leader. So this is a very important bit of lore, because it talks about what the Prometheans were, where their job was, what their society was like. Essentially, their society existed to kind of guard the Eldritch Truth, and so on and so forth. But eventually, they felt that they deserved leader representation. They have a queen. This is important. We've actually seen her before, and she is so... This is the super deep Lovecraft lore boss fight that everyone just forgets is in this fucking game, and no one does. Because to get to it, you have to do a lot of shit. And I'm going to walk through... If you haven't done it, and you still have a file, like, I recommend actually doing it, because it's an interesting fight. So, here's what you need to do. So, you need to get through all these fucking things, right? So you need to get through the lower Thumaru root chalice, or you need to get through the lower Thumaru chalice. To get this chalice, you need the defiled chalice. But you can't use this yet. The reason being is because the defiled chalice has a ritual requirement of Bastards of Lauren, which you see over there. So, in order to get Bastards of Lauren, the only place you can go to get those... also, the Hintertomb Chalice is, like, kind of pointless. Like, you don't need to use it at all. It's the only chalice without a depth 5, by the way. Every other one does, but the Hintertombs just don't have it, because they suck. In order to get that, you need to get the Ailing Lauren Chalice, which you get from the Amygdala boss fight in the Hunter's in the Hunter's Nightmare. Right? Or not the Hunter's Nightmare, the Nightmare Frontier. So by killing the Amygdala in the Nightmare Frontier, he drops the the Ailing Lauren Chalice. In the Ailing Lauren Chalice, you can find Bastards of Lauren, but they are much easier to find in the lower Lauren Chalice. Keep in mind that this game has these chalices don't scale with New Game Plus. They actually don't. The bosses don't, the enemies don't, nothing does. The way it's actually balanced out is that when it says floors, according to FromSoft, 3 is supposed to be endgame plus DLC. Like, if your character is not over-leveled endgame plus DLC, 3 is like the appropriate difficulty that you're supposed to experience. Where it's difficult, but not irritating. 4 is supposed to be around the difficulty from New Game Plus. Right? And then 5, like Endgame New Game Plus. And 5 is Endgame New Game Plus 2. That's how it's supposed to be balanced. However, you can do these in whatever the fuck order you want, or you could overlevel your character, or you could fucking man mode it like I did. But we gotta talk about this in a minute. So, you have to go to the Ailing Lauren Chalice and find Bastards of Lauren, right? So you get Bastards of Lauren, and then you have to do the Cursed Chalice, which can eat a dick. This chalice is actually, like, easily the worst one in the whole fucking game, because it sucks. It has the curse status applied to it by default, and it's the only non-root chalice that does, to my knowledge. What that does is it makes it so that your vitality is effectively half of what it is inside the cursed chalice. So I have 50 vitality on my character, I have 25 in here. If you're going to do these chalices, what I very much recommend is before you attempt this chalice, you want to get both the Great Ish Chalice, which you get from fighting Abriatos in Upper Cathedral Ward, like the secret boss. You have to break the window after the Celestial Emissary to fight her. And you want this lower Lauren Chalice. And I recommend doing these first, and then what you do is you go online and you find a glyph. How a glyph works is if you have PlayStation Plus or PlayStation like online at all, and you're playing the game in online mode, you can search. You can go up here to like one of your gravestones and search by chalice glyph. And you enter a code, which is a series of numbers and letters. You can find these online, and that will bring up a specific root chalice where people have found things. This is the easiest way to get blood rocks, and it's the easiest way to get the tier 3 runes. If you, like, there are two things here. If you're running, before you attempt the Defiled Chalice, I very, very much recommend that you do one of two things. Either do it in New Game Plus 2, or New Game Plus 1 with what I'm about to say, or you get all 3 Clockwise Metamorphosis runes. You get the third one. You can get the third one from a Glyph or a Glyph Chalice pretty easily. A lot of them, like, I could get it. Like, I think I have it, actually. See, like, if we were to scroll up here. See, I have it right there. So, this is 15% more HP, right? The way that these runes... This is going to get kind of technical, which is why I'm explaining this, like, very in-depth. Because the Defiled Chalice is a fucking asshole. Like, it is really, really hard. Even for new game characters, that chalice can pound the crap out of you if you don't know what you're doing. So, you want to run all 3 of these. I am 100% serious. The way that this works is that they stack actually multiplicatively instead of additively. So instead of getting 33% X or bonus health from having all 3, or 35, no, 30, I'm sorry, it would give you, I think, 77 off the top of my head. I might be a little bit wrong on that number. It's 77 and some decimal bonus health. So you take that plus 50 vitality. Have both of those before you try this dungeon. If you're like fucking doing some crazy build where you have like 50 arcane, 50 strength, and like 50 dex, and you're using like a Ludwig's Holy Blade, but you're going glass cannon, this chalice is going to literally fuck you sideways. Like, sure, you can kill things in there easy, but like you'll get breathed on and vaporized. Like, you will have less HP than you did in Central Yharnam at the beginning of the game, if you do a build like that. So, either attempt it in New Game Plus 1 or 2, and save this content for later. Or if you're going to attempt it in your first playthrough, have 50 vitality and make sure you have all 3 of these runes on. If you do not have all 3 of these runes on, pretty much every boss in the chalice has multiple attacks that will one-shot you. And usually they're in quick succession. And you don't fight non-irritating bosses in this chalice. Also, because it counts as a depth 4 chalice, the bosses have the HP that they would in New Game Plus, so they're considerably stronger than normal. Notably, I actually skipped this fight because it took me the better part of an afternoon to actually do it. I didn't record it for this reason, and also we've already seen the boss. But, notably, to get the chalice, to get the Great Thumuru chalice, you have to beat the layer 3 defiled chalice boss, which is the amygdala. And the difference is versus the Nightmare Frontier amygdala is that, like I said, he has new game plus 1 health. You fight him in a fucking small room. So, like, he can literally reach you anywhere in the room before he pulls his arms off. Like, you can't get away from him. And every single one of his attacks, like his light attacks, his little backhand, like, get away from me thing, will do 3/4 of your health. Anything with any intent to kill you, any of his overheads, any of his 2-arm swings, portals or not, you'll just die if you're just running 50 vitality without these runes. So, if you have all 3 of these and you're running 50 vitality and you fight him, he can still one-shot you, but only, like, you have to be pretty bad. Like, you have to get caught in really, like, long, dangerous, like, his fucking double hand, like, arms pulled off, overhead, like, black hole slam thing will still kill you, obviously, but you have a chance of surviving it, is what I'm saying, is that, like, you have a chance. And even then, that fight, if you're not using a build that utilizes a weapon with a lot of vertical reach, or if you're not using a build that can output a lot of ranged DPS, like something with high arcane, or if you're using like an Evelyn with like I don't know, fucking 70 blood tinge or something like that, then he's really annoying. Actually, like the best build that I could see for this Chalice dungeon, like, if you just can't and you have to start the entire game over, the best build that I could see to beat this Chalice dungeon is, what you would want to do is run 50 vitality, have 25 endurance, and then you have 50 skill, and as much blood tinge as you can stack on there before the build hits 150. The thing about, the level 150 is that leveling up in Bloodborne gives you innate defenses based on your blood level, not like the skill that you level. So it's unlike Dark Souls. However, that hits a really hard cap at level 150. So, and also, like, your skill scalings cap out. They hit a very, like, a steep soft cap at 50 as well, which is why if I look at, like, mine, you see that I have 50 arcane, 50 skill, but I don't go above it, even though I could. The reason for that is because the benefit you would see from it is just so minuscule that it makes more sense to put it into something that you'll actually use. So, like, for example, this build is probably going to end up with 31 endurance before I stop it. Because you want that 50 cap, or that 150. The only exception to this is if you're PvPing. And doing a PvP build requires you to go through this anyways, but hopefully if you're going to PvP, you can kind of force your way through this part of the game on how good you are at it. But, like, if you're really getting butt pounded to the point where, like, you just want to try something that can stomp it, this is what you do, is what I'm saying. So, 50 vitality, 30 endurance, and then what you do is you get 30 skill, and basically as much blood tinge as you can. Actually, you probably only need like 20 endurance. So 30 skill, and you'll probably end up with about 65 blood tinge, something like that. And you get a Chikage, which is the blood katana that you get from Canehurst, and you get the Evelyn, which is the pistol you get from Canehurst. The Evelyn has an S blood tinge scaling. It's the only pistol that does. And you can get some really fucking disgusting, like, blood tinge damage gems. There are blood tinge damage gems that I think are like 33%. And you can find glyphs to farm them pretty easily. So, also that's a mean build in PvP, by the way. Like, that will fuck kids up. Because if you have... Say you magically get one of those blood tinge, like a gun blood tinge gem that is like plus 33% blood attack, and you're running a plus 10 Evelyn, and you have 65 blood tinge. You're gonna shoot somebody for around like 1100 damage by just shooting them. So, for perspective, my character has 1500 hit points. So if you take my defenses into account, it would probably about half kill me to maybe like 2/3 by just shooting me. So that's how you do this with the amygdala. There's another way around this kind of, and that's basically what you do to fight. Like if you really want to just meme that fight and just not like you just can't do it no matter what you do, to the point where you're willing to restart the game from the beginning to just get through it, that is the build that I would recommend. It's also pretty fun and interesting, so it's not like you won't enjoy playing it, because the Chikage is a very unique weapon. So, yeah. So you take that build in there, and then you come in with 10 Bone Marrow Ash, and every time that he holds his head still, every single time, you just fucking pop a Bone Marrow Ash and shoot him in his fucking face. That's what you do. And it'll probably take between 3 and 4 of these shots, and he'll visceral, and then you'll get a visceral. And then you visceral him, and back off. And then you play passive until you see him, he'll like raise his head real high, and there will be like a red blood like going into his head animation. That means that he healed that part of his body. No matter how many times you shoot him in the face after you visceral him, until he does that, you will not get another visceral. So, if you just cannot deal with him, use this build and just, like, you can cheese him pretty easily that way. Another potentially super hilarious way to do this is if you're doing a Blood-Tinged Strength build, you can use the Bloodletter instead of the Chikage, and then use a fucking cannon. I've seen someone do that, and that, like, Bone Marrow Ash cannon with fucking 65 blood tinge is hilarious. You'll shoot him for, like, maybe, I don't know, 6,000 damage. And it's just like, boom, visceral. And then you just visceral him, and just sort of stay back, maybe play around and try and hit him with your Bloodletter a little bit, until he heals, and then you just shoot him in the head again. And, yeah, that's a way that you can get through it. Okay, so, enough getting distracted. So, in order to get to that chalice, you need to do the Ailing Chalice, or the Ailing Lauren Chalice, to get Bastards of Lauren. If you beat the chalice and don't get Bastards of Lauren, tough shit. Do it again until you get 2 of them. You need them. You cannot buy them until you beat, the lower Ailing Lauren Chalice. So, worst comes to worst, if you do I think they're scripted drops, like, you should be able to get them in there. Okay, so you need Bastards of Lauren. Second thing you need is you need to go to the Ish Chalice, this one over here. So to get in here you need Pearl Slugs, which you can get from the main story, so they're not that difficult to get. You also need the Arcane Haze Extractor to do this, which the Arcane Haze Extractor is, I think it's in the Hintertombs, so there's a reason to do the Hintertombs, because you can find it in there. So, get the Arcane Haze Extractor, do Ailing Lauren to get 2 Bastards of Lauren. You only need 2. Like, that's it. You only need 2. And then you have to do the Great Ish Chalice to get 2 Red Jelly. And, hang on. I think I have these materials, so I'll just show you which ones they are real quick. And then we'll, like, actually get to doing stuff, sorry. So, Red Jelly. You need these. Yeah, they're gross stillborn infants of unknown origin, type found in some corners of the old labyrinth. So they're unborn, they're gross stillborn, unborn, like babies or some shit. But, for the Great Ish Chalice, or the Great Thumuru Chalice, the requirements on the chalice for the ritual are... Oh, that's the root one. Excuse me. Are Red Jelly, which you can only get 2 of in the main story, and you get them in the Nightmare of Mensis, I believe. So you need to do the Great Ish Chalice to get the other 2. You need 25 arcane haze, which is really easy. You just have to find the haze extractor to get any arcane haze. If you cannot find it, you can also kill those big ass like centipede things, and they drop it in 1s to 2. But that's really annoying, so I wouldn't recommend that because you're gonna need a fair bit of arcane haze. Because this takes 22 arcane haze, so you'd have to kill like 50 of the fucking things, and they're just annoying enemies. So, and then you need a living string. You get a living string if you drop the Brain of Mensis in the Nightmare of Mensis, and then go all the way back down to the area with the little midget guys and then those ladies with like the chain and the axe. There'll be an elevator that'll take you down to the abyss, and if you kill the brain down there, you get a living string. Also to note, if you have the make contact gesture from Upper Cathedral Ward, if you use that in front of the brain, he'll give you a rune. So that's kind of cool. And that's like the only way to get living strings, but after you do that, you can buy them. So, we had all those materials, and we already threw down the chalice. The first 2 floors of that chalice are really nothing interesting. You don't fight any bosses that you haven't seen yet. You fight a bloodletting beast, and I think like a man-eater boar as like the bosses in there. And yeah, so it's actually a really boring kind of chalice. But the 3rd level is a unique boss. Now, there are a few unique bosses in Chalice dungeons, such as like the Watchdog of the Old Lords, and like I guess like the fucking Merciless Watchers, or the Keeper of the Old Lords, or some of those, right? But like I guess the Watchdog of the Old Lords is the only other boss like this that counts, because yeah, it's not like a main enemy type either. Whereas like Watchers and Keepers you can just encounter in later dungeons. So really they're like a basic enemy that's stronger as a boss fight. So the only 2 unique Chalice dungeon bosses that I am aware of, actually I think there's 3, excuse me, are I think either the Abhorrent Beast or the Bloodletting Beast. I don't remember which one. I think it's the Bloodletting Beast, which I already fought and you already saw. The Watchdog of the Old Lords, and then the boss we're gonna fight today, which is the important one. Those other 2 are like, they don't really matter. So yeah, we're gonna go do this floor. But yeah, you have to do all of that shit, and then you can use this chalice. And then you go through this chalice to get this boss. It's the only boss in Bloodborne that gives you a golden PSN trophy. And you also need it in order to platinum the game. And the trophy is hidden, so like, if someone doesn't know how to use Google, like I had a friend that got like really fucking mad because he couldn't figure out like what the hidden trophy was that he needed to complete the game. It's this boss. So, it's been a long time since I've fought her, because, like, I honestly, like, the fight is really, I don't like it very much, so in many of my playthroughs, I don't, because it's just, why? If the episode goes kind of short, because our goal is this one chalice floor and then Laurence. For the excuse you. Whoa. So if it goes kind of short, then I'll talk about some other stuff. And I'll also like provide some info for doing certain things. I'll probably talk about like Bloodborne PvP, because Bloodborne PvP is really dope, and I think more people should do it. Now there are entire dedicated like channels to PvP, but I mean, Remember how we talked about tomb prospectors? I hate the Kirk hammer because I can never parry it. Oh, something that I would like to point out is that for certain quest lines, I'm not going to be doing this because it is very time consuming or it requires you to interfere with the main quest of the game in a way I don't want. To complete Valter's quest, which you just get his helmet and no dialogue as a reward, like that's the League quests. It requires you can get the vermin from doing co-op in the dungeons with the runes equipped and killing hunters in the dungeons. You can also find blood dregs in the dungeons as well. We're gonna try and parry some people. So I have the tier 2 and tier 3 Odin's Wraith runes. I got tier 3 from a root chalice dungeon that I did off screen. And then tier 2 you get from killing Yusefka's imposter. So every time I visceral something, I get 5 bullets. So, hey you, come here. No, like, attack me, you fucking plant, like... Fine. This'll work. Oh cool, we might be able to get a second one. Unless he dies too early. The scorpions have very high physical resist. Oh, you just... crap. Oh well. Hey, come here. There we go. Oh, and he just... Oh, because I shot him more than once. Ooh. Like, you see how many, like, blood echoes we're getting down here. If you're capable of doing these dungeons in your first playthrough, like, this is how you, like, really pump out your character's rank. I'm gonna show some tricks off, I think, at the end of this, if it's too short. Really? Oh my god. RIP. Well, it's okay. I don't want to get slimed, so that's why we're looking up. They hang out on these archways sometimes. And I do not remember this dungeon at all. You're a rat. Okay. So I guess it doesn't want us to fall off. That's what it's telling us. Something to note is that I know you don't get anything super valuable except for ritual materials and souls. What am I doing? From like the side rooms for this, so I'm not even gonna do it. Oh, there's a gargoyle up here. Thank you for waiting politely while I killed him. Oh, hi. Pull your stick out. I want to parry you. Come on. Dude, I'm sure you can figure it out. You don't look too smart, but really. You serious? I don't care about that. I have blood vials for days, man. Do what I want. Oh, and he dropped blood vials instead of bullets. What a fucking asshole. Yeah, this is gonna be pretty short. That's okay, though. So yeah, I don't want to walk, so we're not gonna. We're not gonna do any of the side areas in this dungeon, like I said. The only thing you get is ritual materials and stuff like that. And since this is literally the last chalice that you do that isn't a root chalice, like, I don't care enough. Unless you're doing co-op, like, they're not, then I don't give a shit. Because, A, you can spend insight to get them, and I'm not PvPing with this character, so I don't need insight for anything. You get the idea. Hey, hey doll.
I must. What is it you desire?
I want an endurance level.
Very well, let me. Farewell, good.
Alright. So we want to make sure that everything is peaky top shape. So we're gonna fix that up. I'm gonna check the gems on it, because I did find some gems down there. I'm really trying to find better tempering blood gems without using cursed ones, because I don't want to farm winter lanterns. I don't need to farm winter lanterns to beat the game. In fact, farming winter lanterns is actually kind of a trick. They give you the most powerful tempering gem or blood gems on, like, you would think they do, but actually you can find better ones in chalice dungeons, and if you're really into PvPing, then you don't want those things. You just use the chalice dungeon ones, and there are ways to grind for them. So before we do this fight, I'm going to show you what I'm running. Oops, not that. So those runes up there that I'm running, that is my standard runes that I would like to run endgame on this character. It's 2 Aiden's Wraith and the Best Blood Rapture. There are some interesting interactions with Blood Rapture that not a lot of people know about. On paper, it says that one says it restores 300 HP on visceral attacks. If you visceral an enemy that is classified as a great one, it actually restores all of your HP. So, just a little bit of a note there. We're actually not going to do that for this fight. What we're going to do is we're going to run these 2 clockwise metamorphosis, and then we want one for blood defense. I don't think I have a good blood defense rune, so I think we're just going to end up using a shitty one. Either that or rapid poison resist, because this is one of the only bosses that will actually, like, yeah, there's no blood resist rune. This is one of the only bosses that will actually just rapid poison you, like, super fucking bad. I should get better Great Lake runes. Oh well, I'm too fucking lazy. So we're not gonna be able to consistently, like, get viscerals on her just because of how the boss works. So that's what we're gonna do. Oh, I also never looked at these guidance runes, so we're gonna read these real quick. Remember Lidwig, how he talked about like the silver light that guided him and he didn't want to know what it was and all of that other shit. I didn't talk about this for a reason because we didn't get to the point in the game where we could actually like have context to understand it. So the guidance rune functionally boosts the amount of life recovered by rallying. There's debate over how this actually works, but people will say it increases the amount of time you have to rally back health, not increase the amount you gain back. Um, Actually, and other people say it does what it says. Actually, both people are wrong. Speaking from PvP experience, what guidance does as a rune keep this in mind. If you find this effect where it says boost amount of life recovered by rallying on a weapon, that's exactly what it does. But the runes both boost the time you can get health back after being hit, because that's what rallying is. It's that mechanic where when you get hit, you can hit them back to recover a percentage of your health. That's what that mechanic is actually called, but no one knows that. This rune both boosts the duration of that like time, which by effect, if it's ticking down, it causes it to start ticking down later and then can boost it, which is why so many people get confused. And it boosts the amount by 20% and by 10%. So this is multiplicative, so keep that in mind. So it's actually about 53, I think, when it really comes down to it. That's not additive. There are PvP builds that I've seen that actually are just really fucking hilarious that use Rally. Because Rally is, first off, the amount you gain back is not percentage of health, it's a flat amount. But that flat amount is based on the percentage of your health. However, that flat amount stops being accounted for once you have 50 vitality, which is one of the reasons you never go over 50 vitality. So, for example, this is a fun build, actually, that works in PvE and PvP, actually, but it only works in New Game Plus, so, or unless you, like, use Save Abuse to do it. If you get the Burial Blade, which is the last weapon you get in the game, spoilers, I'm not going to tell you how you get it, but I'll tell you when we get it, I'll show it to you. The Burial Blade has the highest potential rally in the entire game. You can get weapon rally runes that provide no stat bonuses to the weapon, but provide 44% rally. You can find glyphs on where to find those. So you can get radial runes that do that. So a really funny build that I saw on PvP one time is this guy was running max clockwise and double guidance runes, and then he was running a Burial Blade, and he had a 44% rally potential up. So that all stacks together, and basically what happens is that I whacked him 2 times for about 1700 damage with my Chikage, and then backed off, and he had like 1 HP, and then he returned and hit me with the Burial Blade 3 times and was at full HP. So, I'm serious. Like, he literally just, like, R1 transform attack R1 me and went back up to full. It's fucking hilarious. So, like, you can do that in New Game Plus. Like, that's a build that you can go through New Game Plus on and just be troll. It's the most fun way to use the Burial Blade, because that's what the Burial Blade is for, in my opinion. But anyways, we're getting distracted. So, we're going to be running double clockwise Metamorphosis, and I'm debating on the third one. I'm thinking I'm just going to run Great Lake, just for the durability. Because she has a lot of really annoying attacks that are hard to avoid. That's probably what I'm going to do. And this will make us probably as tanky as possible. We might get 1 Visceral on her. So that's what I'm going to do, is run that. Pop a Blood Vial. Go down here. Buy a Blood Vial. And then we're going to go fight her. But, like, yeah, look how much health I have. And that's from 2 of those runes. There are a lot of builds you can do in PvP by just, like, if you wanted to just be, like, really cookie cutter in PvP and just run, like, a saw cleaver or something, you can do that. But all you would need to do is have 25 stamina, 50 vitality, and then the rest go to, like, strength and, or strength and dexterity, or skill, whatever it's called. And then you run triple clockwise and just be fat as fuck and then just hit people. You could, like, win in PvP by just doing that. And the saw cleaver is actually a really rough weapon to deal with in PvP because of how fast it is. You wouldn't think so, but it really is a decent PvP weapon. Of course we can summon Queen Killer here. That's the point of Queen Killer. It's been so long since I've done this fight. Remember this bitch? See why I wanted blood resistance? It might actually be classified as arcane, but I'm not sure. I just am getting a feel for her attacks again. That's why I'm hanging back. Yeah, rapid poison. High magic resistance. Okay, we'll just stick you. When we hit her, you note the baby cries. Baby crying is bad. Ow! Look how much fucking damage that did. So what the baby cry does is that on the second baby cry, it casts an invisible snare spell around her, which can be very bad because she'll do that to you. She broke her handcuffs and has a knife. Whoa! Okay. I forgot about that. Hey. Clones. Stop stabbing yourself. Wanna fucking go, you spooky bitch? Oh, I guess she does. Okay. Spears of Blood, AoE Explosion, the Baby Cry Snare, another AoE Explosion, and clones. But doing any damage to the clones reveals them. So that's what we've learned about this fight. I honestly did not remember it very well, so... You know what? Alright, you spooky bitch, let's do it. That's pretty easy to avoid. That is more deceptive. Lower fire resist. Ow. Oh, we got lucky there. Does that hurt? Looks like it. Sup? Uh-oh. Alright. Okay, that one's fake. Oh, that's a lot more dangerous now. Oh my god, my fucking dick. That's the real one. Where'd you go? A good way to tell is that the real one is the only one that it shoots like the empowered blood spears. Oh, there's a... Get up! Oh, that's brutal. Ugh! It's actually a very hard fight. Like... Okay, so we're gonna change this up a little bit. I haven't tested something. Oh, not that. Our magic is gonna be of limited use. We probably could get a parry off, so we'll keep Augur. Black Sky Eye is not going to help us. And then Call. Our best use of bullets is probably going to be Call. Oops. Oh my god. Fucking goddamn it. Shit. Ah, you piece of shit. Wow, I'm bad. I deserve this for not knowing the range on my weapon. There's a sweet spot. It's right about there. Where you can hit her without the baby going off. Oh! That's annoying as fuck. Whoa! Whoa! Yeah, that's what happens if we don't get out of that or keep dodging. No. I'm gonna fucking red wedding your bitch ass. Give me that baby. Okay, maybe I was wrong about visceraling her. Okay, so she buffed her sword. Get that baby out of here. Shit's so annoying. That's what makes this hard. Oh, that's the real one. Okay, we don't want to be anywhere near that. Because it rains, and that rain causes poison buildup. Because you have AIDS. No, 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 no. Ow! Stop zoning! Ow! My face! At least it's easy to tell them apart now. Oh, that's different. She just missed me. That was kind of cool. Oh my god, get me out of here. You fucking slut. Well, I guess she's over there. Oh, thank you. That was polite of you. Oh. Rough fight. Oh, an interesting thing that I wanted to point out before we get totally distracted is that when we saw her the first time when we killed Rom, is that she had the bloody stomach but wasn't visibly pregnant. So there's implications to that that are sinister, and that will be explained later. Excuse you? Ah, my fucking... I'm mad. Stop. Let's just not get hit by that attack. Okay, so we can stagger her pretty easy. Can I... Sneaky cunt, where'd you go? Okay, you're over here. Give me that baby! Go away. Yep. No. Oh my god! Fuck off! Okay, we gotta wait. Because of the fucking rapid poison. That did not hit her. You're rude, dude. Give me the baby. Get the fuck out of my chalice dungeon. Yharnam stone. key. The sacred heirloom left by Yharnam, Promethean Queen. The queen lies dead, but her horrific conclusion or consciousness is only asleep and stirs in unsettling motion. So she's dead, but this weird thing, which is kind of like what happened when we killed Queen Annalise, the Vile Bloods, we got her queenly flesh. I am going to check something real quick because I'm not 100% sure if I can actually do anything with this. Let me look. Okay, it literally doesn't do anything. You can't use it for anything. I can't take it to the altar of despair and revive her or do anything cool like that. So, yeah. There's crying in here that we can't... You get the idea. So that is Queen Yharnam. Obviously Yharnam appears to be named after Queen Yharnam. So, which is just an interesting idea because perhaps they found her down here and then named the city after her. Also down here, she appears to still be pregnant, whereas above she is not. So it's just strange. Do I have enough souls for you?
What is it? Very well, let me...
Yeah.
Farewell, good hunt.
Alright, and now for something completely different. So we're gonna go back to this. Alright, so Laurence is kind of a different deal. We know who Laurence is. Founder of the Healing Church, Fear of the Old Blood, all that stuff. Turns out Lauren didn't fear the old fucking blood like he was supposed to. So... he is the beast where we got the eye pendant. It was sitting in his hand, if you remember correctly. Hang on, let me just set this up again. Because I went and changed all these. Alright, so for Laurence, we're gonna march our ass to the Hunter's Nightmare. The basic Hunter's Nightmare. Yeah, see, that's where our buddy Simon is over there. But we're gonna just run a gauntlet. Fucking asshole. Normally, he shoots right when you run up to him. I think I just didn't get close enough to him. You can manipulate his AI so he never hits you. Okay, you guys gotta go in. Get him, Cthulhu. Oh, you fucking piece of shit. We didn't need those. You're not supposed to come in here. Huh. Well, that makes this awkward. He doesn't come up, though. Notice how, like, the flask looks like they're pouring into his mouth? It's a throne. We have his skull, if you remember. Human in this world, but beastly in the other one. You sense your old self? Alright, you fuck, come and get it. So there's a trick to this that we can abuse, actually. He always does that attack. Do it again. Doing it a little too early. Cool, we can do it again now. Lawrence, let me out. I'm over here, dude. Yeah, keep doing that. Oh, he broke in half. Sir, chill. Being greedy. Fuck. Not bad for a first try. We could have got more viscerals on him though. You can get like 4 or 5 actually. I just was doing it wrong. It's just very tricky to actually hit his face, which is the only part that allows you to do it. And you can't do it once he's in his second stage. Actually, come to think of it, he might be a very good boss fight to just use the Rosmarinus for his second stage. See, like that. I learned that from watching speedruns. If you run as close to him as possible, then he'll miss you when he's turning. Okay, let's see if we can get through without losing a blood vial this time. It all depends on what Cthulhu here does. Pardon me. Alright, thanks. So we want to get as close to him as possible so we can get as many... Oh shit. He still wants to use that attack. Alright, cool. Cannot see. Don't grab me. Honestly, I've always kind of had trouble with Lawrence for some reason. I remember reading this somewhere, but I think it's because like the tempo of his attacks is like it's a different pace than the music. It's like it's a different beat. Hey, buddy. Do it again. You know what, Lawrence? I don't actually think I've... No hugs. That hurt? Oh, that's a good way to do it. I didn't have stamina. Oh shit. I like that attack. Church pick is so busted. Ow. Fuck, the timing on that is weird. And it reaches behind him. Yeah. Yeah, fuck the original tactic. We're gonna just do what we did before. Actually, we might want to pew-pew him to get the first visceral, because the best way to get another one is the animation right where he heals. Or if we can dodge his like double-fisted ground pound, maybe we can get a charge attack in. It's actually kind of hard to avoid though, because the aftershock on his flames will stagger you out. I did it too early. Whatever, that's low enough health. Excuse me, sir. Okay, bye. Oh my god. Oh! God damn it, Laurence. You're a dick biscuit. I'm actually just gonna de-equip Augur, because I don't think we're gonna use it. This I do want to try, though. Perfect. Excuse me. Sup, bro? Ah! I fucked that up. Yeah, that was bad. I trapped myself. Okay, there's something I kind of want to try. You can do this on Abriatos, but it's really hard. I wonder if you can do it on this guy. You can, with Abriatos, you can to Nitrous. After you get her a Visceral, or in a Visceral, you can to Nitrous, and then start the Visceral animation. And them getting hit by the Tonitrus will... It'll count as, like, they're exposed, so the Tonitrus will do more damage. But you'll still be Visceraling them. So they, like, stand in the whole thing. But it's actually kind of tricky. Go get him. He almost memed me. Do it again. Oh, he doesn't want to behave. Now he fucking does it. Oh, I did it wrong. Shit. No hugs. Uh-oh. Oh, we're... Nice, we dodged it. Yeah, like that. Oh, excuse you. Whoa, okay. Ah, you piece of shit. Rosmarinus intensifies. Beast Embrace. I forget if we got a rock or not. No, we didn't. Fucking Queen Yharnam doesn't give you a rock, bitch. Oh well, these 30,000 souls don't mean shit, so... There. Okay. So, I'm gonna show off a few things, real quick. I'm gonna do a little bit of education. So, first off, this weapon, the Church Pick, I think is the most fucking underrated and amazing fucking weapon in this whole game. For a number of reasons. I've already talked about its weird-ass damage profile. It's really fucking fast for how big it is. It doesn't have a sweet spot like most scythes, where like you have to hit them with the end. If you hit them with the handle, it still counts as hitting them. And no matter what part of the blade you hit with, or like weapon, even if they're right in your face and I'm doing like these full-arm swings where I'm just hitting the handle, it will always deal thrust damage in its two-handed mode. And this opens up some very interesting implications in terms of PvE and just general game-breaking bullshittery. There are both triangle and radial blood gems in the game that are called Adept Damp blood gems that increase either thrust or blunt, basically, thrust or blunt damage, and the highest possible number that you can get on those is 32%. Now, there is a glyph that I'll show you, basically, that you can screen cap that will allow you, it basically lets you into a root chalice dungeon where you can farm the Watcher in that root chalice dungeon with the eye, or using the eye runes, and he drops adept damp blood gems that are 31.5. So damn close you won't even notice a difference, really. If you stick 3 of those on the Church Pick, so what's considered to be like good is like 20 plus 24 is really good as far as blood gems are concerned with like PvP, right? So like the ones I have on this are like pretty shit in comparison to those. So plus 24 compared to plus 38, or 32. So there's a pretty big difference there in terms of raw damage output. The church pick also has a really disgustingly high. It's kind of like Ludwig's Holy Blade, only not to the same extreme, where even though it says on the weapon, oops, well, we have to go look at it anyways. So on the weapon, you see how it says B or D and B. So it has a D scaling in dexterity and a B in, or in a B in fucking what's it called? Christ. And a B in skill. That D is percentagely closer to a C. So what this means is that with no blood gems on this thing, with 50 dexterity or 50 skill and 50 strength, your swings in two-handed mode will be doing somewhere close to 700 damage. So just for perspective, so it's along the lines of like Ludwig's Holy Blade in terms of damage output. It's not quite as high, but it's pretty close. The big difference is that with Ludwig's Holy Blade, you want tempering blood gems, which cap out at 24, which limits your absurd damage potential to a degree when compared with adept blood gems, which only apply to thrust damage typings, which cap out at 32. So if you have 3 32, so 1 triangle and 2 radial, 32% adept blood gems on this thing, then I've seen this weapon swing for, I don't know, somewhere around 1200, 1300, and most of the attacks, let me put it back on, I'll show it to you. It's one of my favorite weapons, so I have to like suck it off a little bit. So in its one-handed mode, thrust slash thrust slash thrust, yeah, you get the idea. But when it's like this, all the attacks are in fact thrust attacks, and the weapon is roughly the same speed. So for PvP, a combo like is really gross. Like, that will kill most people. Also, it catches dodges really easily. And it has some mean moves in it. So, like, backstep is like a scythe kind of thing, right? So, like, that's really good if they're, like, if you're in, like, a big fucking dodge roll, or if they roll away from you. It has a running, like... Oh, I did it wrong. Fuck. So that. So you can follow up with 2 overheads. Its charge attack is like this. Let's see if I can do it. It's actually kind of tricky to do. But the charge attack knocks people down. Like, it knocks players down if you land that and they don't dodge it. So, like, you can do something like charge attack, backstep, and then something like that. Charge attack. And then if they try to dodge, you can roll catch them. Oh, I was doing the wrong button. So it would look like this. Oh, I'm bad. So that's actually really nasty because they don't expect that. Also, it's like targeting attack. Let's use the doll real quick as a little bit of a guinea pig. Because we can target her. Oh, no we can't. Never mind. Its dash attacks are actually quite hard to avoid, and they cover a lot more ground than people expect, but the tracking on them is kind of mediocre. However, something you can do is that if you trigger a dash attack, so like if you dodge and then attack, and then unlock from them, you can use your movement, like your camera and your movement like that, to direct the attack in any direction, which lets them, like, basically it makes your shit, like, really difficult to avoid. So, like, we can see how I hit the doll? Like, that's so fucking fast. Like, That attack is one of the meanest ones the weapon has. But you don't really, I don't really use it in PvE. So, like, you can... Or let me try and get a better one. Like that. So, like, if you're locked onto them, and you do it, and then unlock right before you finish the combo, then you can spin in a way that you normally wouldn't be. So, like, for example, if they dodge behind you after your back step, or something like this, then yeah. So you can actually use it to gain ground on people by facing backwards to them with them locked on, and then you can just, like... And no one expects that shit. Like, it's really mean. So, like, you can... Oh, I did it wrong. It's actually kind of tricky to do right. Oh, I did it wrong again. It's kind of tough, because you have to do a jumping attack right after. That's the best combo with it. So, like... Yeah, the timing is really tough, so... Let's see if I can spin it. Oops, too slow. Nope. Damn it. I used to be much better with it, but it's actually kind of tricky. Oh, also there's that roll, which is nasty. You can turn that off as well, so like if I was going to roll like that, like you can roll away from somebody and do that. So those are some combos with it. Like and that's just like with simple button presses. Both of those catch dodges, so like if someone, that's how you really want to fight with it a lot in PvP, is just like... Let's see if I can redirect that again. Damn. It's actually really hard. The reason it's hard is because you have to do the jump attack facing away from you. Or rather, this way is probably better. Let's see if I can... Nope. Almost did it. Wrong way. But yeah, you get the idea. So there's a few things you can do with it. So it's a really good weapon if you play with your camera unlocked, because it catches a lot of dodges with it, and the attacks are really wonky and like weirdly timed. Also, the way that the weapon scales out is really, really good because it uses all thrusting. Or you can use like just basic combos, so like you can go and stuff like that. So, the way that it times out is very difficult for a lot of people to continuously dodge. The only problem that I have is that it's a little thirsty on the stamina side. But in PvP, like, that won't be a problem, because you'll have more stamina than I will on this character, probably. So, it does a lot of damage, the reach is really disgusting, it catches rolls really high, and because of the way that the damage typing works, it allows you to use thrusting blood gems, which just pushes its damage up to 11. It also has a really mean charge attack, so like... that you can turn around on people in the same way. So how this works is it does 1.5x, and then this does 2.5x, that second one. So, you swing this and then unlock from them, like try and hit them with it, but then when they dodge and go in for their counterattack, because they will, and most weapons have like a step wind-up, they're expecting you to be in this like wind-down animation, you can hit them with that. and that's like really, really rough. So there's the good combo of boop, if I have more stamina, but you get the idea. I don't have enough stamina to do it, but you can backstep and then attack. Let's see if I actually do. Let's try it, just basic. No, I don't. I need a little more. So yeah, you get the idea. I think that this is a really underrated PvP weapon. You build it Dex and Strength with those two scalings, or what you can do is you can imbue the weapon and make it arcane, but you lose damage doing that. But it lets you use your arcane stat. So like, yeah, you get the idea. Like if I were to put arcane blood gems on this, I could potentially do more damage. Let me fuck around with that actually, because I have some laying around. No, that's not what I want. Bolt and arcane. Fire would work, but we want arcane attack up. So like that's pretty good. And I don't have any thrust blood gems. I'm actually not sure if this works the way I think it does. Yeah, it doesn't work the same way. So like if you changed it, it would deal arcane damage instead of thrust damage. So this sort of thing would be better with something that has a higher arcane scaling. You could do this really, you can get really nasty Blades of Mercy by doing this sort of thing.
Where's the goddamn thrust attack?
What do you mean? Oh, what do you mean? When you say the thrust attack? I guess if you put arcane on it, it takes that away, which that's why you use this weapon, so don't do that. The other thing to note about this weapon is that
And WTF is weak to thrust in the game.
everything is weak to thrust, by the way. Like, literally every enemy has, like, a lower strength or a lower thrust resist, so it's good for PvE for 2 reasons. One, most enemies are weak to thrust. That's not usually the case for hunters, but generally thrust defense is slightly lower than their regular defense, so there's that. But most enemies are, in fact, weak to thrust. The only exception to that is things like ghosts, but there's, like, no fucking ghosts in this game, so that's okay. All of these attacks, all of the attacks when the weapon is transformed classify as thrust attacks. I know, because it's a pickaxe. Even if you hit them with the handle, like if they're really close to you, still does thrust damage. You can put Thrust Arcane, or you can put Adept Blood Dreams on it that scale up your thrust damage, not your physical damage, and then use the weapon two-handed. And it's a nasty PvP weapon in that respect. Those are the main qualities of it. In terms of PvE, the fact that most PvE enemies in the game are weak to thrust makes the weapon useful in its two-handed form. But also, there are only 2 weapons in the game that are counted as both serrated and righteous. And this is the only one of them that counts at the same time. The other one is the Threaded Cane, which when it's in its cane form, it counts as righteous, so it's good against kin. And when it's in its whip form, it's serrated, so it does extra damage against beasts. So the Church Pick, by default, no matter what type of attack you're doing, thrust or slash in its like one-handed form, does 20 extra damage to kin and 20 extra damage to beasts. Because fuck you. If the enemy is neither of those types, such as if they're like a Great One, then it doesn't do either of those bonus damages. But most enemies fall into one of those categories. So it's good in that respect alone. Not only the fact that it scales really... Not only is that, but it also scales really well with strength and dexterity. So if you're going to build it quality, I didn't do it to maximize it in this game. It's actually, instead of this weapon as my secondary weapon on this profile or on this character, I actually should be using the Blades of Mercy. But fuck the Blades of Mercy, I don't want to. The Blades of Mercy would be best for the type of character that I'm doing. But I really like this weapon and wanted to use it, so I did. As far as the playthrough is concerned anyways. Okay, so let's see, what else do we have left to do? I guess what we'll do is, remember Lady Maria? I guess what we're gonna do is we're gonna read the artifact that she dropped. It's not that. It's Celestial Sundial. The celestial dial that functions with the giant astral clock in the Grand Cathedral. When the dial is held up towards the astral clock, the clock will come to life and reveal the secrets to its curious interloper. Alright, so we're gonna go Indiana Jones this real quick. Let's go see what they're hiding in the Hunter's Nightmare, guys. So, that's a rune. I believe that's Great Lake. There's more on it, but it's hard to see. Yeah, let's hold the sundial up. Oops. Don't want to listen to that. Ding. So yeah, there are a bunch of Carl runes on this side of it, which is interesting. Also this tomb thing. Well, let's see what's in here. See, this is what's weird. I want to point out a few interesting things about this area and how nightmares in Bloodborne appear to work. So for one, if we very carefully walk over here and don't step off the side, if you see, these are the buildings. So this ocean or water where it is physically raining and where I can physically stand, like, lines up with the astral clock tower. This top of this clock tower, which we can see from down below. So if we look up, we don't see what's actually here, but looking down, we see what's below us. So like that being the cathedral and stuff like that. There's some other buildings. Let's look at the other side carefully. See, here's more of Yharnam over here. So like we can see pretty much all of Yharnam. See if there's any more we can see. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. Also note these ship masts. These ship masts, if you look carefully, they do not appear. They start a little ways below the water, but not in a way that you can see from below. As you can see, they appear to stick out of the surface. And that they're sunken, but they're not. You cannot see them from down there, but you can see them from up here. Now, here's something that we're going to do. Let's just go and get a whole perspective on this, which is, I think this is a very interesting point. Alright, we have to go back to the dream to show this. Yeah, there's going to be some loading screens, but I think that this is really cool. Alright, we need to go to this one, I believe. Nightmare Frontier. Alright. So, recognize those? Those masts? They're the same ones. You can cleanly, like, you can...
What about threaded cane?
What about the threaded cane? Oh, it's damage typing? The threaded cane, when it's folded up in cane form, is,
5-0 skill, 2-5 strength looks good on it.
Yeah, that's fine. You can run that, or you just can run 50-50. It depends on where you, like, 50 skill, 50 strength. It depends on what you want to put, those last 25 skill points into. You can dip into arcane, but there's nothing, like, really competitive that you get at 35 arcane. If you cut health, you can, go to 40 arcane, and with that 50 skill, 25 strength, and then 40 arcane and get Call from Beyond and potentially make that work. But it's probably best in terms of damage output to just go 50 strength, 50 skill for the cane. So back to what I was saying. These are the same ship masts from down in the Hunter's Nightmare. Now, I want to show something besides that. This would imply that all of the nightmares occupy the same space, but they don't. Like, well, not in the sense that we think that they do. They occupy the same space horizontally. At least this is my theory. Okay, we have to go down here. It's been a while since we've been to this area, but we're very over-leveled for here, so there's nothing dangerous. I'm just trying to get a closer look. See that there's these roots or tendrils that hang below the Nightmare's frontier. And they appear to stop just before the top of these masts, but we can also clearly see a mountain range over in that. We're gonna go back to where we were. But the key thing to note is that the Nightmare Frontier appears to be above the Hunter's Nightmare. Right? Sucks that the loading screens make this take so long. So yeah, we appear to be more level. That's Yharnam, or the real world. In this case, it's the Nightmare Yharnam. And then there's these ship masts. And then there's this. Up here. Notice that, well, these masts are kind of in the way, but if you notice, that appears to have something in it. Almost like more masts in itself. Or a tower. However, we can clearly see the ship masts, and if you look in the Nightmare Frontier, this direction is the same direction as the sun in there, so you can logically deduce that where we are now, the Hunter's Nightmare, or rather the Nightmare Frontier, excuse me, would be somewhere over in this area. We would be able to see those hanging roots. There's cloud cover, obviously, but if there wasn't, like this is clearly shining through, so it just raises some interesting questions, because they're clearly in the same realm, the same reality, sort of, but they're layered on top of each other in such a way that from one layer you cannot look up and see the one above you. And there's no telling how high this actually goes. But what this does tell us is that the Nightmare Frontier is above the Hunter's Nightmare. However, they are in the same space. Just in the same way that above or below all of these nightmares is the real world, at the very bottom. And the only thing that appears to orient any of these worlds is the moon, if you assume that that's the moon. If you assume that in Yharnam, this is the moon, then you can kind of line up the directions of where all of these are facing, like east to west. And it just paints this interesting picture where, based on the location of the moon, the Nightmare, or the Hunter's Nightmare, and Yharnam are lined up about exactly the same. However, this thing is slightly lower than the moon. In the Nightmare Frontier, it's even lower. So, and in the Hunter's Dream, you can't see it at all. So, it's interesting because you can hypothesize that the Hunter's Dream is on the very top, and then the Hunter's Nightmare is directly below it, and then more of the Hunter's Nightmare is the Nightmare Frontier is directly below it, and then the multiple layers of the Hunter's Nightmare. And then below that is reality. And the one proof that we have that this exists is that, if we recall, a few episodes back when I was exploring this down here, a random snail girl fell from the sky and died. Later in this area, we encounter those same snails. So somehow, she stepped off this edge and just fell into the realm below and plummeted to her death in a place where she shouldn't be. But this place, talking about lore implications, the research hall, which Lady Maria actively attended to the patients in, was secret, yes. It was behind a lock, but not to the degree of the astral clock tower, which you had to open via a dial, and then it opens up into a plane of reality that you just simply can't see that connects to it. And that's the real secret. Now, what in this place is so important that it has to be hidden behind so many levels of secrecy, that first, you have to understand that these things exist, right? That nightmares exist. Second, you have to be blood drunk or have the eye of a blood drunk hunter. I was getting to that. Interesting. Okay. So, before the Healing Church, I suspect that the Hunters of Bergenworth did something really, really fucked up. Wrath of Mother Cause, mercy for the poor wizened child. Murderers, blood-crazed fiends. Okay. Yes, I know. I want to pick the item up, thank you. Madman's Knowledge, okay.
Atonement for the wretches. Lay the curse of blood upon them, and their children, and their children's children forevermore. Each wretched birth will plunge each child into a lifetime of misery. Mercy for the poor wizened child. Let the pungence of Cos cling like a mother's devotion.
Who is Cos?
Spoilers.
Or some say Cosm.
Oh, shut the fuck up. There you go. You know who Cos is.
Atonement for lay the curse of blood of each.
So, that's the first time we've heard the name Cos in a long time, actually. The first person, and the only person from our reality that we know about to say Cos was Mikolash. And he was asking Cos to relieve us of our bestial idiocy and grant us eyes on the inside. This guy is basically saying he wants Koss to curse the hunting descendants of Bergenworth forever and bring blood upon them. Now, you could say that blood is the scourge of beasts. That's actually not true because of the way that the timeline curves out. And let me explain this. So, before any of this happened, the cosmos was discovered through contact with Abriatos, right? A left-behind Great One, which was in the Tomb of the Gods, which were being explored by the Bergenworth scholars. The discoverment of Abriatos led to the discovery of the Holy Medium, which is blood, and the foundation of blood healing. The use of the blood was then disagreed upon by Laurence and Master Willem. Laurence wanted to use the blood to heal people and do all of that shit, and Master Willem said, fear the old blood. Now, we're gonna talk about this a little bit because this shit is so fucking interesting, and this is the basic core behind what Bloodborne is, and the term Bloodborne. Because if you think about it, Bloodborne is spelled with an E, but you could also interpret it without the E as blood, born, blood and then born, or born of blood. The Queen of the Vile Bloods wants to birth the child of blood. Every Great One loses its child and yearns for a surrogate. Blah, blah, blah. So, that's the thing with the umbilicals. It all kind of clicks together with the term born and born, spelled with an E and without, and blood. But blood means different things. Blood can refer to bad blood in terms of spite or revenge, or it can be literal blood. So, we're going to read this. Great Oaden, lacking form, exists only in voice and is symbolized by this rune. Those who enjoy it, or those who memorize it, enjoy a larger supply of quicksilver bullets. Human or no, the oozing blood is a medium of the highest grade and the essence of the formless Great One Oaden. That line right there, human or no, the essence of blood, all of blood, is the Great One Oaden. What this means is that blood, human, alien blood, doesn't matter. Any kind of thing that is blood, infected by the scourge of beasts, cursed by Mother Koss, blood is a Great One. It's an alien. Blood is a Great One, just like Koss is a Great One. Or the Moon Presence is a Great One. And the key thing to note is that these Great Ones, and this is what makes it confusing, is that people lump them together. The Great Ones appear to have conflicting interests. The Child of Blood is probably the doing of Oaden, because he seems to like to run around and impregnate women with random blood babies against their will. And this happens to fucking what's-her-face? I don't remember her name. The whore that you save in Cathedral Ward. This happens to Yusefka if we don't kill her like we did. You can get a fourth umbilical cord that way. There was an umbilical cord in the Hunter's Workshop, which has some very interesting implications to it. That umbilical cord is the one that you pick up that mentions the Moon Presence and the ushering in of the Hunter's Dream, that connects to the doll. What I think that means is that there are 4 umbilical cords, and all of them, I actually theorize, come from one Great One, not multiple, because the Great Ones operate with different motives and they just function in different ways. Oaden works through blood and can create like childs of blood. That's what the Queen Annalise wants. That's why you're fetching blood dregs from her, so that she can get knocked up and have an Oaden baby. Now, something to note is that the babies are both shown to be formless and have form as those little tiny weird things that can bite you and have frenzy. Those things were literally fucking everywhere in Bergenworth and in the lecture building. They're in cages, they're being studied, they're all the fuck over the place in Cathedral Ward. Now, there's a fun term. So, Upper Cathedral Ward has a place called the Orphanage. The Orphanage is full of the Blue Moon people, and only orphans can become members of the choir in the Healing Church. So, when you say orphan, does that mean parentless? As in fatherless? Implying that somehow a child of blood can grow up to be an adult. So there's interesting interpretations of this, but the biggest revelation in Bloodborne is that the blood itself is an alien. The blood you are shooting into your body every time you use a blood vial is an alien. Every blood, or all of the blood, in every beast and every human, even in weird Great One things, is an alien. It is the same entity. So, there is fun symbolism that I would like to talk about. At the very beginning of the game, when you're strapped to the table after you have the blood infusion, the first thing that you see is a puddle of blood that forms into a beast, and it sticks your claws in its face, and then spontaneously catches on fire. The next thing that you see is you're covered in messengers, and you hear the doll talk. So, this is interesting because what I think that this means is that the Great Ones have conflicting interests. The three important ones, anyways, being the Moon Presence. Oh, there's four, I think, but the three important ones being the Moon Presence, Kos, right, and Owaden. Owaden and the Moon Presence in particular. Kos I don't think cares very much, but Kos was the first Great One that was like really like discovered, if that makes sense. So that's the one that everyone is trying to get eyes on the inside in order to interpret. And we're going to talk about the process and progression of the process of eyes on the inside in a bit, because that shit is very fucked up and really interesting. So, Blood Dog appears. You can hypothesize that because the dog is made of blood, it somehow symbolizes Owaden's will because you've been injected with Yharnam blood. The blood dog explodes into flame and then immediately dies, and then you're covered in messengers who whisk you away to the hunter's dream. That makes you the heir, and it also would imply that you are chosen by the Moon Presence, which actively repelled Owaden. The beast itself probably represents man's innate bestial nature that we're always trying to rid ourselves of. So, by being that is pushed away from you, and you're taken into the hunter's dream to become a hunter and actively fight against beasts. What's neat about Bloodborne is that beasts are actually not all that important. All that they do is symbolize human nature and their primitiveness. That's all that beasts really are, even if it's literal. And the Great Ones and the blood behind them and hunters symbolize a higher intelligence. The goals of Bergenworth, the goals of Upper Cathedral Ward, the choir, and the School of Mensis are all the same, but they approached it in different ways. Bergenworth sought insight to line the brain with eyes, to commune with the Great Ones in that way, whereas the Healing Church kind of took it in the other direction. They tried to use blood as a catalyst to do this, to communicate with the Great Ones, and do all of that. However, neither of these things really worked. There's something missing. You need the blood. You need the insight. There's no denying that. You need both. But there's a third part that was known about, but neither group, because they were missing blood or insight, even with this third piece, couldn't truly tap into the concept of ascendancy. And that third part we have. It's these. You need the relic of a child of blood in order to become a Great One. Every Great One loses its child and longs for a surrogate. With these three things, you are reborn and become a surrogate. That's the point. That's the idea behind all of this. Now, this has been known, but the process of doing it has not. It's unsure by many people whether or not you need whether or not you need the blood, you need the insight. You need to have an understanding of the eldritch truth, the concept of things that you actually cannot comprehend. You need to have a connection with the Great Ones via Owaden and his tainted blood. You need to have that as well. But not only that, but you need the pieces that allow you to become a surrogate for the Great Ones and replace the child that they lose every time there is a child of blood. Right? That child doesn't die. It just doesn't ascend. That's why they lose it. It's in reality. It isn't a thing that is outside of reality. They cannot reproduce because their children are born in our born in our plane of existence and not the one above that. So there are ways to get around this. So that's essentially the idea behind that. Now, the main thing that a lot of people don't understand is eyes on the inside. This is directly related to the idea of, well, it's insight, it's how much you know about everything like that. But we've seen throughout the game that eyes on the inside is interpreted symbolically and literally. Having eyes on the inside isn't just a phrase, it's a literal thing. And the process by which this study took place is the whole reason why this is a secret. And you can know this without even being here, actually. Because of a few things. And let's work backwards. Abretus. This is all learned from Abretus. This has to be. It's the only thing that makes sense. That's the only connection that anybody had. Both meeting her in the Tomb of the Gods, where she was presumably left behind. She's referred to as the left behind Great One, left in our plane when they moved to a different plane. She's stuck down here with us. Communing with Abretus gave us the idea of eyes on the inside to discover the eldritch truth. Abretus does have eyes on the inside. If you pay very close attention to her mouth, when she opens it, it's lined with eyes all along the inside of her head. And you can only see this, of course, when she's killing you, but you get the idea. Something about literal eyes looking inwards towards your head, a perception, a visual perception towards things immaterial like planes of thought, is what is the key to. That's insight. That's the missing piece. Blood is the other missing piece, or rather, the holy medium, the old blood. That's the other missing piece. Owaden. So, now, look at the process behind this. Remember the Celestial Emissary? That boss that was really boring? The purpose of the Celestial Emissaries and the Blue Moonmen is a progressive thing. It is a progressive thing. The idea is you give somebody eyes on the inside, and they have the blood, but not the cords to become a surrogate. They ascend in the sense that Abretus is ascended, and that they're a great one, but they're not on a higher plane. So, the process behind this is actually not explained, but fairly well demonstrated. And you work your way backwards through it towards the game. The first time you send somebody to Yusefka and go back there, and that's the first time you see one of those blue aliens, she turned them into that. Doing it surgically. There's surgical equipment, there are tables with straps, there's knives, there's all this stuff in the back of Yusefka's clinic. And Yusefka is a member of the choir by her garb, by the way she fights. It's obvious. She has a Rosmarinus, she can use Call from Beyond, which is a specific choir technique, and she's wearing the choir attire. And she refers to them as saving people. She believes that she's ascending them by doing this. But that's important. What is not explained is the process of this was not something that was discovered overnight. It was very rudimentary. And over a long time, the church has learned how to give people eyes on the inside. The blue aliens inside Yusefka's clinic, we didn't really do this game, but if you send everybody there, they retain their consciousness and act as though, like, you know, they act like they did before. Some are hostile, some are not, some don't understand. You can send everybody there and they will retain some part of their personality. And that's kind of important. So, let's take a step back. The research hall, the patients of the research hall, people being presumably taken off the street or taken from somewhere, people given the blood treatment as seen by all of the equipment, all of the blood bags and such like that in the research hall, are trying to develop the research hall, because the hunter's dream is based on a period of time, or the hunter's nightmare is based on an old period. We can look back in time and study this process. The research hall was researching how to create those. How to create celestial emissaries is what I'll call them. That's why the boss, the living failures, which look like the celestial emissaries but are clearly retarded and incapable of, like, doing what the celestial emissaries were supposed to do. They lack, the process is unrefined and they lack the mental constitution or whatever, and they end up losing their minds. That's why they're the living failures. They're alive, but they failed their purpose. If we look at Saint Annaline, the girl who we gave a bunch of brain fluid, and then she became a head on the floor. Right? Through that unrefined process, she gained eyes on the inside, if only briefly, and gained insight to the degree where she could visualize a new Carl rune. That, even if she died, that's the point. Those patients are the precursors to the celestial emissary, but it goes back even more. What's done up in this village up here is the precursors to the research hall, or perhaps where they were taken from. And the anger exists throughout the nightmare being maintained by something. Parts of the nightmare being maintained by different things, or perhaps they aren't. It's hard to say what maintains it and what doesn't. But let's take a little bit of a run forward. We're gonna work.
Blasphemous murders, blood-crazed fiends. Atonement for the wretches by the wrath of Mother Goss. Mercy for the poor innocent child. Mercy. Oh, please.
Okay. By the wrath of Mother Goss. This is the fishing hamlet. I want him to go away so we can try and listen to this. Some more chanting. You can make out Mother Goss. Also, this symbol. The man hanging upside down, headless with his arms tied like that. I don't know about you guys, but I think it looks an awful lot like this. The symbol for a hunter. That is the symbol of a hunter. Or the hunters, as a thing. Now, we're going to go and do something real quick. So go back to the dream and look at one more thing. So we're going to be a broccoli monster. We're going to read the broccoli monster again real quick. Milkweed. A transcription of the inhuman sticky whispers that reveal the nature of the celestial attendant. Celestial attendant being your connection, right? Sticky whispers. Those who take this oath become a lumenwood that peers towards the sky, feeding phantasms in its bed. Phantasms guide us and lead us to further discoveries. There's some correlation here. Let's look at some of our items. Scrolling down. Empty phantasm shell. An empty invertebrate shell said to be familiar of a great one. Said to be a familiar of a great one. Phantasms are familiars of great ones. The church has discovered a great variety of invertebrates or phantasms, as they are called. Shells with slime still harbor arcane power and can be rubbed on weapons to imbue them with strength. Augur of Abrietas. The remains of the remnant of the Eldritch Truth encountered at Bergenworth. Encountered, not understood. The Eldritch Truth being Abrietas. This is a phantasm or a familiar of Abrietas. Use phantasms, the invertebrates known to be augurs of the Great Ones, to partially summon abandoned Abrietas. The initial encounter marked the start into inquiry of the cosmos within the old labyrinth and led to the establishment of the choir. A call beyond. This is also a phantasm. If you just look at how it doesn't necessarily say it is, but you can tell just by looking at it that it is. Let's go over here. Pale slug. Of all the strange life forms that reside in the nooks and crannies of the old labyrinth, these slugs have clear signs of the left-behind Great Ones. So this sort of thing, slugs, phantasms, invertebrates, things that live inside shells, sluggets and snails, are the familiars of the Great Ones. So, we look at the Milkweed rune. Again, those who take this oath become a lumen wood that peers towards the sky, feeding phantasms in its bed. Phantasms guide us and lead us to further discoveries. The familiars of the Great Ones guide us and lead us to further discoveries. This rune feeds phantasms. We're a broccoli monster. Okay, we're gonna go back. We're gonna be a broccoli monster, and we're gonna go back and check something. Fishing Hamlet. Hey, Bergenworth, buddy. Talk to me.
Curse here, curse there. A curse for he and she. White hair. A bottomless curse. A bottomless sea. Source of all greatness. All things that be. Listen for the baneful chants. Weep with them as one in trance. And weep with us. Oh, weep with us.
And he gives us something. We got a different response talking to him with this rune. Let's read what he gave us. Shut up. A skull from the locals, a skull of a local from the violated fishing village. Inside of the skull was forcibly searched for eyes, as evidenced by the innumerable scratches and indentations. No wonder the skull became stewed in curses. Though they who offer baleful chants weep with them as one in trance. This skull, with all of these things in it, is called a cursed brew. This is actually a hunter's tool that's actually really good. As you can see. Let's get this thing off our head. Oh, let's read this real quick. After repeated experiments in controlling the Scourge of Beasts, the gentle Embrace Room was discovered. When its implementation failed, the Embrace became a forbidden rune, but this knowledge became the foundation of the Healing Church. Those who swear this oath take on a ghastly form and enjoy ascend or antiquated transformation effects, especially while wielding a beast weapon. Alright. We're a beast. Rawr. If you have the beast claw, this is actually, like, really fucking cool. So, the beastly scourge was known about and studied at Bergenworth. The old blood, right? Here, let's have a little bit of a timeline real quick. The old blood and Abriatos discovered in the Tomb of the Gods roughly at the same time, and both were studied at Bergenworth. However, the old blood was deemed dangerous because it brought out man's beastly nature when experimented upon, and then was deemed forbidden, as were runes using it. Right? This is what pissed Laurence off, because he knew that it was the other piece to the puzzle, but he didn't realize there was a third one. So what he did is, when he fucked off, he took some of the old blood and founded the Healing Church based on the idea that this blood could heal people. So, the spreading of the Healing Church and blood ministration is what causes the Scourge of Beasts. The Scourge of Beasts is not directly related to the blood itself, however. It's related to one's actions after taking the blood. It's the concept of becoming blood drunk. The hunt is what causes, or is a big thing that made people go blood drunk, right? The idea of hunting beasts makes you become a beast, which is why hunters are susceptible to becoming beasts and losing their minds. Hence the need for the hunter of hunters, which is a person of exceptional willpower not to fall to the bloodlust. That's the whole point of it. The eye of the blood drunk hunter is what transports you to the hunter's nightmare. Blood drunk hunters become cursed, and when they die, they go to the hunter's nightmare. Or rather, anybody that's blood drunk. There's normal people there, there's beasts, there's everything. And this is a curse. It doesn't necessarily have to do with the blood itself. The Scourge of Beasts, and by effect the act of becoming blood drunk and then going to the hunter's nightmare forever when you die, to forever hunt and be blood drunk, is a curse. See, there's a misunderstanding at Bergenworth. That's what's the important part is that between the times where the Bergenworth scholars experimented on the people of the fishing hamlet, probing them for eyes on the inside, trying to elevate them to higher planes and understand the cosmos this way against their will, and administering blood to them against their and such, what they did is they laid a curse on the holy medium itself, right? The curse being the Scourge of Beasts and the Hunter's Nightmare, and Kos was the one that did this. So, Owain, who is blood, brings out the nature within all men, because the beast inside a man is inside his blood, regardless of whether or not he's a man or a beast, right? It was already there. Becoming blood drunk is different than becoming a beast. You can be blood drunk without being a beast. Or you can be a beast and be blood drunk. And then, when you become blood drunk, you fall victim to Mother Kos's curse. Because blood-crazed fiends of Bergenworth, that's what they cared about. They cared about the blood. Being crazy for blood means you're like them, and therefore you are cursed. And your children, and everybody that's... If you ever become blood-crazed, you're totally fucked. So, just to add insult to injury to this... let's think about this for a sec. Who became blood drunk that we know about? Gascoigne, right? Gascoigne became blood drunk, transformed into a beast, he killed his wife, and then we killed him. Logically, you can deduce that Gascoigne, after dying, was transported to the Hunter's Nightmare in some form. However, Gascoigne has 2 kids. So, kid number 1 went out looking for her mom, and then when we went looking for her mom, then when we found her, we told her a safe place to go because she was now an orphan, and then she got eaten by a pig. Because she was a child of Gascoigne, she got sent to the Hunter's Nightmare as well. So she's in hell, basically, forever, and there's nothing that we can do about it. As with Sister 2, who tried to go and then got killed by the troll outside her window after clinging to her sister's ribbon. So the thing is that whether or not they died immediately after Gascoigne and, like, you know, his wife's departure, or died of old age, they were fucked either way. Because that's just how this works. The secret of the Hunter's Nightmare is the curse itself. So, that's what Maria was hiding. Now, here is an interesting and fun idea. Why would Maria, in undeath itself, eternal, unending death, defend such a secret from any interloper who wants to see what happened? Why would she defend the curse? She knew what it was. It wasn't guilt that did this, as we'll find out later. She doesn't want to be a hunter. She's disgusted by the idea of being a hunter. She helped the patients in the ward. Why would she perpetrate this cause? That is a big, interesting question about Maria's character. And the reason for this, in my opinion, is if we go... Let me find it. Not that. We're doing lots of lore right now. But that's fine. Is it this one? Yeah. This is the first third umbilical cord that we got. This is the one that we picked up in the real world Hunter's Workshop. The Hunter's Workshop where Gascoigne, or not Gascoigne, Gurman, who was really fucking into Maria, lived, or whatever. And you get the idea. So we're gonna... This is going to get really fucking weird, but it's a theory, it's not confirmed, but this is what I think happened, because we know where 3 of these cords come from. One of them, from the formless child at the end of the game, which we have not encountered yet, which is the child of the Queen of Yharnam, whom we killed, who is not pregnant at the time we are going to see her, and not pregnant at the time we saw her before, but then was pregnant down in the... That's how they discovered the 3rd piece, right? The child of blood, from the Queen of Yharnam. All of these things were discovered at the same time, but one of them was kept a very big secret, while the other 2 were more exposed. And that being the idea of great ones losing their child and yearning for a surrogate. People often misinterpret this as the Queen of Yharnam being Great One, or a literal interpretation of this, because it's clear that she lost her child, as in it was forcibly removed from her body, and yearns for a surrogate because of what we see later. But that's actually not the case. She's actually just really fucking pissed off. So this cord that we found in the Hunter's Workshop, there are things in the Hunter's Workshop that are very interesting. Like the doll, for example. It's clear that Gurman, the first hunter ever, it's said that he has a mania that is associated with Maria. He was obsessed with Maria. The doll looks like Maria. And he took care of the doll when Maria left. He had her replaced. The doll manifested itself in the hunter's dream, which happened after Maria left. Maria got disgusted with the idea of being a hunter sometime around when this happened, with the fishing hamlet and everything, because all of this happened really before the church itself. So, what happened? What happened to Maria? That is the big thing. There are a few things. First off, the reason this 3rd umbilical cord was...
CEO of Great Ones. Ebriet is Ormoon presence.
I'm sorry, what? I don't understand. Okay. I have 2 theories about this. So, it's kind of established loosely that blood dregs, this is obviously sperm, just look at it. Like, Queen Annalise partakes in blood dreg offerings so that she may one day bear a child of blood, the next vile blood heir. She wants a child of blood to be the next vile blood heir. That's interesting. Perhaps the vile bloods are children of blood, and that's why the church is like, fuck these guys, because they're outside of the church's control. But
Who's the greatest of great ones? Who's the boss?
Probably. Kos appears to be the most powerful. It's either Kos or the Moon Presence that is probably the most powerful. But, like, they're all at odds with each other and trying to further their own goals in their own ways. The idea, I think what Owain wants to do is just spread as far as he can, which is why he impregnates random people and also is okay with, like, the whole blood thing. Kos is kind of like that's why they refer to her as Mother Kos. She just kind of likes to protect things, and it's also said that the great ones that are in the nightmare are willing to listen if answered upon. They're probably referring to Kos. So Kos is just kind of cool, but also is like really fucking pissed off by atrocities. And the Moon Presence is a controlling dickweed. Anyways, so back to Maria and why this umbilical cord was in the Hunter's Workshop where Maria and Gehrman were. There are two theories. A, Maria had a child of blood. Somehow. Through this process. Perhaps she got infected. Perhaps she was impregnated by Owain. It's possible even that Gehrman raped her. Like, you don't know. These blood dregs are only collected from hunters, people who've had the blood transfusion. The old blood is in their body and presumably in their seed as well. So it's possible that that happened. And it would be, I mean, it makes sense because of Gehrman's obvious mania with Maria, to the point where when she left, presumably because of this thing happening, and started caring for the patients in the research hall as an attempt to atone for whatever the fuck happened to her and whatever she did, then he couldn't deal with it and decided to fucking replace her. He got a doll to do the same job, right? And then when the Moon Presence went, hey bro, you want to fucking live forever and train all the super hunters that I make? And he's like, K. The doll became the phylactery for the dream. The doll is the essence of the dream. And if we remember, the first note we see is the term pale blood to transcend the hunt. All of the great ones appear to have blood that is white or pale, or some kind of viscousy, like, mucusy color, to some degree. But look who also does. The doll. Maria didn't, in the Hunter's Nightmare. This is a different person, but it's the same person. And also, it's clear that we can't actually kill her. I would also like to point out that Gehrman does his very best for someone who has a mania of Maria to the degree where he made a doll that looks literally exactly fucking like her just to deal with the fact that she wasn't around. He doesn't pay a whole lot of attention to her. They never interact one time in the entire game. He literally ignores her. And the reason that I suspect this is the case is because it's obvious that Maria and the doll, even though they look the same, are not the same. Perhaps his reason for being obsessed with Maria was something to do with her personality, which from what we saw during our fight with her was vastly different than that of the dolls. Maria is a lot more aggressive, upfront, she's more obtuse, and she has a sense of right and wrong, whereas the doll basically is just a glorified maid. So if you knit all of this together, the idea behind what everyone was trying to do was elevate humanity from its perceived stupidity and what it
Maria
was.
is related to Vile Bloods and Analyze.
Yes, that too. She is also related to the Vile Bloods. So, but the doll and Maria are not the same person. The doll is a construct of Maria. So you could kind of omit that, or say it's partially relevant. But it would make sense because Maria is related to the Vile Bloods. Perhaps she could bear a child of blood, like the way that Annalise wants to, via blood dregs, forced or not. And that's fucked up. That's really, really fucked up. But that's probably what happened. So the next time we see Gehrman, he might be a rapist. Just think about that for a sec. Is he still over here? No Perino. He goes where he wants. But yeah, we can't really go into more without discussing spoilers. But we're almost to that point where we can break down literally everything.
I don't want to think about that.
Well, yeah, because he's like the first person you interact with. Just go out and kill a few beasts. It's for your own good. Don't think too hard about this. Don't investigate any of the motives.
It's so horrible to think.
Yeah, I know. Don't investigate any of the motives behind why anybody did anything, including myself, and I feel enormously guilty about it in my immortal servitude up here with this thing that just reminds me of the person that I hurt that isn't the same person, and I can never ever have what I want, Kappa. So, like, you know, Gehrman's in hell too. It's just a different kind, right? That's kind of a theme. Now, whether or not this happened to him because he did this, or just coincidentally, that's, you know, you can't really say. I believe that the reason that he is in the Hunter's Dream is more coincidental. The fact that he was the first Hunter is what qualified the Moon Presence to come do this the first time the Moon was summoned or whatever, which is what the School of Mensis does. But the thing is that as a writer, I appreciate the writing in this game to the degree that I tried to add to it with the very way that my character works, right? The things my character wears, the things I try to do. This is kind of going into more of a roleplay thing, but as a human being, what I tried to emphasize is that this character right here would latch onto these experiences and carry them with her throughout the thing. So, for example, let's look at what we're doing. Maria's hat, right? The Hunter garb, the original one. The very, very first one we got. Not the one for recruits, but one standard article of Hunter attire. There's so many different ones we could wear. Those wrist wraps are mostly because they look cool, but we were doing Gascoigne's gloves for a little while. But I prefer the wrist wraps, honestly. The idea that the Scourge was infectious was pure heresy. The reason I like these is because they represent the wrongness of the church that you discover over time. Right? That's what they're for. The old Hunter boots are mostly because they pay respect to the traditions and superstitions of hunters of the past. That's the idea that I had the character latch onto those for. The flame sprayer was given to us by Gilbert, which is the first person that helped us at all, right? And he's a beast now. It's his weapon, right? The Rite Palash is a traditional weapon favored by Canehurst. The weapon that we eventually went on with. I mean, we could probably use a Chikage as well. But it stems from the idea that maybe the Vile Bloods weren't wrong. They just escaped from the church's ideas and then were branded heretics. Just like what happened with the powder kegs. Wear Maria's hat, kind of in remembrance to her.
A corpse should be left well alone.
Hey, yeah, exactly. But the thing is that while a corpse should be left well alone, a corpse should also be remembered.
Oh, I know very well how the secrets beckon so sweetly.
Mm-hmm. She knew too. And then again, there's the ribbon here. Ribbon of the girl we first got killed, trying to do the right thing. So, you know. It's all fucked. Like, that's the whole point behind it, is that everything is so fucked. And that's why I love this game, is because there's nothing, you can't dig any rightness out of it. The deeper you go, the worse it gets. And you can be ignorant and, like, you know, you're saving humanity from the scourge of beasts and blah blah blah, as your intended purpose was. That's what Gehrman tries to get you to believe. So that you don't get fucked up like everyone else. Right? Halt the scourge of beasts, lest this night carry on forever. That is not true. That's the thing. The beasts don't even matter in the grander scheme of things. The beasts are a side effect. The creation of the hunters that you play as are a side effect of what happens before. And it's the things that happen before that are what's important. Which is why we go so far to discover them. Anyways, I think we're gonna leave it off here for today, because we've basically, like, walked through everything and how it all interconnects up to this point. And just how it clicks together, right? And it really just revolves really around Bergenworth, Laurence, Wilhelm, their disagreement, and Gehrman and Maria. And then the Great Ones. Those are the important characters. And what they did is what really matters. So yeah, you get the idea. But anyways, thanks for watching.